Hi, my name is Mike Kyle, and I am the head of school and also the head coach of Nova 42 Academy. I started my career at Arizona State University at the Walter Cronkite School of Broadcast Journalism. Quickly, I switched over to the technology or engineering school and graduated with an engineering degree at the Fulton School. From there, I went into business. And during that time, both high school and college, I had an activity that I actually loved so much that as I came to the end of my career in marketing and printing, I decided that I would go back into speech and debate.
Hi, my name is Jung Park Kyle, and I went to undergraduate. My undergraduate experience was at Harvard. Back then it was actually called Harvard and Radcliffe Colleges, but they eventually just merged all the women into Harvard College as well. So I graduated from Harvard College, and then I went on to get a law degree at UC Davis School of Law, and I became a licensed attorney in 1998. I also did quite a bit of acting, various training with Second City Los Angeles, which is an improv comedy training center and theater, as well as miscellaneous stand-up comedy clubs and other training places around Los Angeles and San Francisco.
I was very short. When I graduated high school, I was only 5'4", so I had to defend myself with my words, and speech and debate gave me that. So as I went through life, gave speeches at conferences, keynote speeches, training webinars, whatever it was, I was the go-to guy for speaking. And when I got out of that field, I decided I would go back to speech and debate and become a coach. As I did, I discovered a whole new world of what we call academies, after-school academies. And I saw that the after-school academy was competing at a level that didn't compete against the other schools. We called it the academy circuit. So we decided that we would take an academy approach and bring it up to a higher level. And that's why Nova 42 came into play. We started by going to larger tournaments, Stanford, Berkeley, started to travel to other states, Utah, Arizona. We started going to bigger tournaments, including going to nationals. And as we did, we grew our reputation so high that the National Speech and Debate Association decided to kick out all of the academies. I hope that we weren't responsible for that, but I know that our competition level was high enough to start taking kids out of their own school. So we invented our own league, the International Speech and Debate Association, where we could be more inclusive than the current National Speech and Debate Association. And in doing that, we began to invent new events that were structured at business. We created innovation pitch so that we could pitch an idea, a concept. We start with an elevator pitch and go into a 5-minute concept pitch. We also started to change debate. We looked at debate as a life skill, but we realized that there wasn't anybody out there who wanted to hire a debater that would simply argue with them. They would get fired. So instead, we created what we call dialectic spar, where we take two sides of an issue and we try to come to a compromise or a solution. And in doing that, we created a new form of debate that businesses want. And so our approach at Nova 42 has developed and focused in on the life skills required for success. And regardless of the trophies, regardless of the competitions, students at Nova 42 focus in on those tools for success. And that's, I think, what we're most proud of, because the students that come to Nova 42 know that they're not only in a safe and resourceful environment, they also know that they're getting the best training for leadership, interpersonal skills, and the presentation skills of speech and debate.
So my name is Max Ma, and today we're going to do a spontaneous argumentation on the topic that zoos are better than museums. I'm on the side of the zoos.
My name is Liam Kyle, and I am on the side of museums, so that means I'm on the negation side.
Today I'm on the affirmation side of the topic that zoos are better than museums, and I'm arguing on the side of the zoos. So I have 3 points to support my arguments. My first reason is that the innovation activity in zoos far outnumber the activity in museums, because all you do in museums is just walk along looking around at exhibits. However, in zoos, it's fun for people to learn, and it's good for people to actually be able to interact with the animals around them and which they originated from. And for example, petting zoos. Petting zoos are the best because little children can actually get to interact with animals and actually make it fun for them to learn more information. Well, instead, in museums, it's just a boring tour of the museum, which doesn't really have much interest. My second point is that in the safari, there are no animal abuses. So that means that in safari parks and safari zoos, there's no abuse and there's no cages around the animals that would signify that there's a lot of abuse. They quit that many years ago, and it won't happen anytime. And my third and final reason is that we will look forward to the future and to better using the zoos, because generations to come will remember the zoos as a place to actually remember that animals are kind and we need to learn about them. And because generations of people love using zoos, and even young children like going to it, that means that zoos are far better to be able to look into the future and how to solve these recent animal extinctions that's been going out all the time. For example, many years ago in China, the pink dolphin became extinct in the Yangtze River, which is very bad. But instead, in zoos, this can be a possibility. And we need further generations to be able to better society by going to zoos and experiencing it for themselves. So for all these reasons, because we need to better our future, we need to look for no abuse, and we need more innovation and activity. Please support the affirmation side. Thank you.
Today I got the topic that zoos are better than museums. I am on the firmest negation side. My first reason is that at museums, we can get way better education, because at zoos, you're just looking at an animal, and those little description things they have aren't that helpful because they can't fit that much stuff there. And there are way more facts about them, facts that you can learn about them in museums. And my second reason is that at zoos, we have real life animals, so that means if we want to teach them tricks, it will tire them out. But at museums, we can bring back extinct animals to life with computer animation. So if we do tricks with these computer animated extinct animals, we don't have to torture any animals or train them and wear them out. And we can just make a T-Rex jump. And at a zoo, we have to teach them, and they have to learn it, and it takes way longer than just animating with a computer. And my third and final reason is that making zoos and going to zoos are a way greater risk than going to a museum. Because when you go to a zoo, you're taking your life in your own hands, because there are much dangerous animals and they could all escape. You never know. So this is why I think that museums are way better than zoos. Thank you.
You may have the first question.
So you stated that there's less activity at museums, but isn't that what we had in old museums? Now, don't we have like animatronics and computers, and we can actually make them move?
Well, actually, little kids actually like to see animals in real life rather than on the screen. And for example, kids would rather see real life animals like a real life tiger other than a cartoon with a tiger inside of it. What museums pose is a bunch of animations showing a tiger running on screen. Instead, zoos pose a real life way to actually see the tigers, and that's what really brings kids' heart into education. So that's why zoos have more activity than just animatronics inside of museums. So you state that that there's a lot of risk and it's dangerous, right?
Yes.
But don't you agree that there's actually 2 parts to the zoo? One is the safari park and the second is the real zoo. So do you agree that if you think that's too dangerous, shouldn't you just go to the normal zoo?
No. Actually, these are both different. And even though safari parks have them released and are more dangerous, we still can have them break out in zoos.
How can they break out in zoos when they're literally behind glass?
Some animals can break through glass. And you stated that we can go to petting zoos and childs can pet animals, but isn't this also risking your life in your own hands? Because you never know if these animals are trained properly.
Well, do you agree that they actually need to train these animals first to not be able to react to people touching to them because, well, of the risk of young children? So do you agree that they basically already prepared for that factor?
No, because some people can't afford the good enough trainers.
So my opponent states that there's actually better education in museums than in zoos. Well, actually, it's the opposite because of the main factor of enjoyment. Zoos, you get to enjoy yourself and look at all the animals in their natural habitat, at least built by humans, their natural way of living. And in museums, all you see are these exhibits behind glass shelves that you can't even get to touch and experience for yourself because all that stuff happened 200 years ago. And because there's more enjoyment in zoos, that makes kids need to learn and they want to learn. So that means that they actually get better education. My opponent also states that they can bring back dinosaurs into animatronics. How does that benefit you? Because you don't really learn anything. And third is the risk and danger of safari parks. Well, you can actually go to the normal zoo, which is everything behind the glass. And in safari, if you want to risk yourself, then go ahead. This poses a great way to learn, and please support the firmest affirmation for this topic. Thank you.
My opponent states that there is less activity at museums and more activity at zoos. I highly disagree on this because with museums, we now have technology and we can make everything in that museum alive. And he also states that we get to enjoy ourselves more at zoos, but you don't know that some kids actually love seeing those fossils and extinct animals and all the other stuff we can't see. And with museums, we can see stuff that we used to couldn't see at all because we weren't alive for that time. So museums, you can enjoy yourself better because we get to see things we couldn't have seen. And that is why I support the firmest negation. Thank you.
So I've been working with students for about 11 years now, mostly in the beginning teaching them writing skills, verbal test preparation. I invented a lot of my own systems to teach the kids study habits, memorization skills. I started working with kids in communication and speech when we opened Nova 42 about 6.5 years ago. And over the course of the years working with students, I've learned that there are actually some special communication training strategies and modules that we need to develop to really help our Asian and Asian American students. So I've been working with that and developing systems and coaching strategies for Asian American and Asian students for the last approximately 5 years.
你好，我叫马哲君. Today I'm be giving an informative speech about Osmo, Play Beyond the Screen. Have you ever seen something really cool and wondered how it works? Have you ever wanted to do something on your own, only to have your parents say, you aren't old enough yet? Well, I have, and on too many occasions if you ask me. But my parents changed their tune when they found Osmo, a gaming device that teaches me how to code, compose, and much more, all against the backdrop of a game. The games center around a technology called Reflective Artificial Intelligence, which involves a uniquely designed attachment that snaps on top of the iPad, allowing the app to see physical shapes placed in front of the tablet. Simply put, each game involves a physical element that is then interactively integrated into the iPad game. One of my favorite games is called Coding Jam. It allows me to compose original music by arranging coding blocks into patterns and sequences. This has strengthened my understanding of music and piano, by teaching me rhythm, harmony, and melody, while stretching my imagination and coding. I am currently making my own tunes. Look out, Ed Sheeran! Aside from winning multiple awards, such as Time Magazine Best Invention, Ozmo has been adopted in over 22,000 schools in 42 countries around the world. Just think of it. An entire generation of kids, like myself, learning to code and compose at such a young age. Can you imagine all the ways we can make this world a better place because of this? Talk about inspiring the next generation. Ozmo inspires me to dream big because it has taught me that there are multiple solutions to any problem. There is no one path, just better paths to take, much like real life. Most important of all, Ozmo has shown me that kids can be empowered to code and compose at any age. I could be the next Steve Jobs or Taylor Swift. So when your parents say you are too young to do something, respond, maybe. But I am never too young to start now. 谢谢.
I think it's so invaluable for children, no matter what country they're from, whether they're born in the US or immigrate over here. I think it's so valuable for all children to learn speech and debate. And the reason is that speech and debate form the heart of all aspects of communication. Especially in the United States, being able to communicate, whether one-on-one with someone or to a large audience, small audience, those skills are crucial to success in life. If someone cannot communicate, then someone cannot oftentimes succeed. For example, let's say there's a student who's very interested in science. That person or that student can really benefit from speech and debate training because they will usually have to go to a conference and speak about his or her research. They have to talk to his or her lab associates about the research. They may have to do written communication and write for different peer-reviewed journals. Also, communication is very important for students in terms of building their unique leadership, and something that, especially in Asian communities, we don't often talk about, and that's EQ, emotional quotient, social skills. Social skills and the ability to talk to one's peers, one's supervisors, one's staff, etc. Social skills are really the key to success in life. And so often we see kids who are brought in by their parents because the parents say, oh, my child is so shy, or my teacher told me that my child does not talk enough in class. I'm very worried. So many times we see parents bringing in kids for this type of shyness. And what we do and how we help students is that, first of all, we validate them. We tell them it's okay to be shy. If you're a shy person, you'll probably feel shy your whole life, and that's okay. There are many different forms of leadership. There are many different forms of communication. And when kids realize, oh, to be a leader, to communicate, I don't have to be that loud person. I could just be myself, sensitive and observant, but confident. So I think communication skills are really crucial to kids understanding that they are okay just as they are. And then they enhance their skills and their actions. But validating the core of who they are and teaching them that they have a voice, a powerful voice to change the world, no matter how shy, no matter how aggressive, assertive, they have a unique voice and they can develop that no matter what they do. I think that truly builds confidence, which is the crucial first step in building our leaders of tomorrow.
So I've been doing speech and debate for roughly 6 years now, ever since the end of 4th grade. When I was like a little kid in kindergarten, I was very shy, right? Like one time we were on stage doing a performance and I just ran off the stage completely. Another time in 4th grade, the first time I started doing speech and debate, I didn't really want to speak to people. So instead of actually giving a speech and doing what I was supposed to do, I went to the nearest table and hid under it for around 30 minutes. So I was very shy, I was very timid, and I didn't really want to speak. But after doing it for 6 years, you kind of get used to speaking in front of people, and that's definitely changed my life because normally I wouldn't be able to get in front of people and talk to people, but now I feel a lot more confident talking to people. And with debate, I feel more confident talking to adults. I can talk to adults about politics, and it actually helps me because adults think that I'm actually a lot smarter now, which is a lot of fun to impress adults instead of just impressing other kids. And I think that's very helpful in life because that debating skill is very essential to like learning how to argue, learning how to compromise, learning how to come up with ideas, learning how to think quickly. All of that stuff is very helpful. And even though I don't do a lot of speech, events like Impromptu, the one I did earlier, is also very helpful because you only get 2 minutes to do a speech, right? So you have to think quickly, you have to come up with ideas as fast as you can, and those skills are very important in life. And I think debate's also really important too. Some of the ones I'm most proud of, one was when I was in 6th grade. I went to one of the biggest tournaments out there. I went to Stanford, and I was a 6th grader, so technically I actually wasn't allowed to compete because they don't let middle schoolers of that age actually compete in the tournament, especially at that time, since they didn't really even let 7th or 8th graders do it that much. And I was doing spar, so I was doing basically high school spar. And I was just this little 6th grader, probably around like this height at the time. And I made it into the semifinals round. But I was one place away from breaking into finals, which was sad. But it was, as a 6th grader, was a really good achievement. And I remember on the awards stage, there was a lot of high schoolers who were probably like, 5'9", 6 feet, depends. And I was like this little 4-foot 6th grader standing next to them. And if you looked at the line, it was just like this, and then it dropped, and then it came back up. I think that was one of my favorite awards I've ever won, just because of how impressive it was as a 6th grader to win a high school award. That was fun.
I think speech and debate is really fun, but I think more fun is speech because debate, I haven't really done much debate events. I've only done like Congress and SPAR, but I think speech is really fun because you get to do a lot of voices, and even though memorizing isn't that fun, when you actually do it, it's really fun, and you want to do it way more times, and I can do a lot of voices, so that really benefits me when I am doing speech. And another reason why I think it's pretty fun is because we also get to make our speeches sometimes like informative. We can choose a topic and we can talk about it, so it lets us express how much we know about things and helps other people who don't know much about that thing, and they can learn stuff about it. And I personally really like speech, and if I didn't do it, I wouldn't be here today.
So when students come to Nova 42 Speech and Debate Academy, they will learn, first of all, 4 key areas, our core 4 areas of learning. The first is about critical thinking. The second is about presentation, or what we think of as public speaking. The third is about interpersonal communication, the communication between one person and another. And then finally, but also very important, is leadership. So as we look at those 4 key areas, we start teaching the kids very fun, very interactive exercises and drills relating to those key areas of learning. So for example, we just recently taught our elementary school students about critical thinking, reasoning, what is deductive reasoning, what is inductive reasoning, how do we figure out something logical through a few clues or pieces of evidence. And the way that we taught them that was a really fun murder mystery that they had to solve. Our elementary school coach developed this fun game for them to look at all the clues that were written about different potential suspects, and then they took those clues and deducted or used inductive reasoning to figure out who it could possibly be. So we teach these kids a lot of different skill building that ultimately helps them to develop those 4 key areas. Another way that we teach kids to build those different areas of learning is to encourage them to compete at speech and debate tournaments. Once they go to a tournament and they really embody the particular skills that they've been taught, whether critical thinking in a debate or where they're doing communication in a memorized speech event, their learning and their confidence skyrockets. So those are some of the ways that we teach kids ultimately how to be confident, how to be leaders in the world.